So I want to talk to you about how to pay off your home by the time you're 40 or any sort of big goal like this. And I know it's contingent on a lot of different factors that everybody is sort of can have all of these sort of, thoughts and things like that. But I want you to really think about what I'm going to say because I think it makes sense. We were able to, that was a goal that we had as a family, is to pay off our home by the time that we were 40, and we were able to do that. And it took a lot of work and effort, but we're happy to do it because that gives us a lot of freedom after. So we could just quit our jobs if we want to. We don't really have a lot of expenses and things like that. And so it does open up a lot of avenues. So how do you actually pay off your home by the time you're 40? And you can, listen to the whole Dave Ramsey thing and stuff. And I think for the most part, he's right. Don't really like his political views and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes comes across, often comes across, I sort of stopped listening to him because I sort of couldn't take it. But how do you pay off your home by the time you're 40? You really have to make a lot of decisions by getting there, to get there, right? So it really started off, my wife and I, when we were dating, and we had, we thought about, this was kind of a goal for us, right? We wanted to pay off our house by the time, by the time we were 40, and I paid it off. I think I had about 3 more months left. And by the time, or both of us had about 3 or 4 more months left before we turned 41, so we were able to do that. And it's not like what you think in terms of, of not living a good life and all of that kind of stuff. In fact, it's the complete opposite. We've lived a pretty good life. But what we do is we did for a long time, prioritize things that built the relationship rather than, other things, to sort of experience things that could be expensive. So we did a lot of walks. Before you sort of criticize, that I make all this kind of money and stuff, you have no idea about academia then, if that's the case, because I did not make an income, any sort of substantial income, until I think it was like 32, 31. My wife had an income, but early on you don't make a lot of money in the career that she was in. She's since sort of grown, and we both have grown into having more money, more of an income. And really what it comes down to is us determining that we're going to do this, and we're going to stick by this very long-term goal, which seemed like kind of unattainable right at the time, but we knew that we could do it. So we did not, we didn't have cable, we didn't sort of buy things. There's a couple of things that I was not happy with a purchase. We bought a new car and leased it. That was a mistake early on. But other than that, the cars we own them for a very long time. We didn't have cable for 15 years. We also, here's another thing that's really important, is we make decisions based on the fact that we can afford the particular home. That's the sort of thing I was talking about, is many of you can make those decisions too, where you sort of choose to live in a city that's pretty expensive, or the homes are expensive, and that was an active choice to think about it. Now, if I would have got a job in academia in one of these cities, I probably would have taken it, and it would have extended how long we would have paid off our home, but we would have still made a lot of decisions to try to pay it off in various different ways. And if not by 40, if we lived in New York, we'd probably try to pay it off by the time we got to 45, right? And how you do that is you don't live in Manhattan. You live an hour and a half outside of Manhattan in one of the boroughs that are much more affordable. Right? And then you sort of commute in and do all that kind of stuff, right? And there's a lot of sort of sacrifice that's involved to do all of those things, where you make those choices along the way. There's lots and lots of little tiny choices, and it's not one particular choice that you do, but it's all of them that add up, and they add up over time. Like they just compound in terms of what you're doing, and it does get slightly easier towards the end, the last couple of years. However, we still were pushing things back, and people made fun of us for the telephone that we had. We had voice over IP phones, which were like $15 a year. Everybody made fun of that. Everybody made fun of the fact that we didn't have cable. Family and friends, they didn't necessarily, we just, didn't travel nearly as much. Every trip that we took was just really like going back home to see family and friends. We still kind of do that. We still haven't did a big trip where we've gone to Europe and did all of that kind of stuff. Although we'd like to do that, it's, we just haven't sort of prioritized those things. And we prioritize paying off our house first and sort of having stability around us first, before we did a lot of the other things that a lot of people do. So we're living life kind of backwards compared to what the average person does, right? Most people live life first and have a lot of fun for the first 15 years, but we're doing it completely backwards compared to what the norm is, so that we can have a long and prosperous life and enjoy a lot of stuff. So we can just stop if we want to. Working, in fact, I think we are at the point that, we could, just retire today if we wanted to. We're not going to do that, but we're at a point where we could do that. And it requires a lot, right? Like, both me and my wife work, and all of what we ended up doing is basically putting all of one salary into our home, right? So both of us worked and we paid into our home. And you could do that all over the world, right? Like, you might think that is unreasonable or untenable. Well, even if you don't make a heck of a lot of money in combined income, right? You both have to sort of be looking for how you can sort of move up in terms of the career choices that you're getting, and, investing in your education. That took a lot of work and dedication. I don't think people don't realize that, to get some of, a professional designation. My undergrad is an engineer, for example. I studied my butt off for a long time. 5 years seems like a long time when you're doing it. Looking back, it's not a lot, but when you're doing it, when everybody else seems like they're having fun and all that kind of stuff, it hurts. And you're living super poorly. Basically, my favorite meal, my wife makes fun of me now, was like rice and peas, frozen peas, and some hummus. You put that together, and I lived like that for 4 months, when I was working, because I didn't have a heck of a lot of income. I was sort of saving for school, and you just keep doing that, and you live like that kind of college student or a university student for a long time. You just keep pushing it out, and part of it had to do with training in graduate school, right? When you're doing a PhD, you don't make that much money, and so you don't have a lot of extra available, and you get used to living like that. And so once that's done, we just carried that out. That was really, so our life didn't change that much. We still just did walks and, spent time together. My outlet, we did have a gym membership at an inexpensive gym for a while. Now, I swim, so I have and pay for a swim membership and stuff. But like, keeping all of those expenses as low as possible by making all of these little choices of like where you live and, what are you going to do, and all of these things. It is absolutely possible, and I believe it's possible all over the world. You just have to sort of make those decisions to do it, and you will find all sorts of stories, no matter what country you're in, what sort of income level and all of that kind of stuff. You're gonna find people doing this, and they'll be, and it's really rare, it's really weird, very weird to do this. That whole Mr. Money mustache kind of live like him in a lot of different ways. I rode a bike for years instead of, driving and owning a car and stuff. Years and years and years. We had to get a car when when we had kids, and we have a really inexpensive small car. And you just keep doing that stuff. And it seems so weird, right? Like you're one out of 100,000 that do this. But that's how you do it over and over and over again. So hopefully you gain something from this, and, do share the pod. Let other people know and you learn something. All right, take care. Have a wonderful day.